Good afternoon. This is the Methods of Using AutoScore in Orion presentation. I am Zachary Snell. I'll be the presenter for this series. I will also be moderating the YouTube chat with my associate Gregory Glatt. We will be covering this presentation over the next 20 to 30 minutes. There will be 6 topics on the agenda. We're going to start the presentation by talking about labeling targets using barcode labels printed from Orion and alternative methods. We're first going to discuss information on the barcode label and where to place labels. Barcode labels printed within Orion contain the following information: a first and last name of the athlete that you can see here, the competitor ID, which is the number in parentheses here, and unless printed from the athlete database, which we will discuss later, barcode labels also contain position and series information here. The competitor ID is the most important part of the barcode label, and this is how Orion assigns targets. Orion does not look at this name, it is looking at this number and matching that up to the competitor number in the individual match. Barcode labels within a match can be created by selecting the athlete or athletes and using the print labels command. This will tell you how many labels are being printed and the column and row on the barcode label sheet from which they are being printed, which you may adjust if you have a partially printed sheet. Within Orion, this is done on the Match Competitors tab by selecting an athlete, right-clicking, and selecting Print Labels. I can use Shift-click to select multiple athletes, and then I will have the option to print labels for both. We're printing 3 labels per athlete because in this match we are shooting a 3x10 course of fire. When placing labels, they should go on the upper right hand corner of the target as seen in this circle. For perforated targets, labels are placed at the top upright section of each perforation. The position in the series bubbles should be directly next to the barcode label when it is being placed. Alternate labels can be printed from the athlete database. These are printed by the sheet, and 60 labels are created at a time. Labels printed in this manner do not contain position information, however they will still contain a competitor ID. I can do this from the athlete database by selecting an athlete, right-clicking, and selecting Print Labels. I will get one of 2 options here, or 3 if you are using multiple database field values for this: the CMP competitor ID or the default number. In order to match these to the Match Competitors list in Orion, I will go to Match Properties, and upon creation of the match, select to use a membership field value and select the field value that I'm making use of here. Again, the competitor ID is the most important part of the match, and this piece is what is assigned the target to the athlete. Finally, instead of barcode labels, you can entirely use the bubble in section of the target, as we can observe here. This is done by, in match creation, by selecting Use Text-Based Name Abbreviation. That will create a text-based abbreviation for each athlete. For example, in this section, Greg is listed as GRE. That is what the athletes would bubble in on the target, along with their position in the series, and that will allow the athletes' targets to be assigned to them, again, via AutoScore. So within my match, if I were doing that, under the Match Properties tab, I would select Use Text-Based Name Abbreviation. For the next part of this presentation, we're going to cover the AutoScore function followed by the Assign To function. AutoScore is the most common feature in Orion. The most common use of it is simply the Scan and Score Targets button within the match. This will activate your scanner, scan the targets in one at a time, and then assign them to the athletes while they're being scored, should you be using barcode labels. As again, simply the circle with the triangle pointing right directly enter match in Orion. Alternatively, with AutoScore, you may scan targets in for an individual athlete. This is done on the Match Scoring tab, as you see here, using Scan Targets For. To do this, I would select an athlete, you'll see they highlight in blue, and then I would select Scan Targets For. Because this is a 3-position match, I will then select the position that I'm scanning the targets for, and those will be fed in. This is commonly used for an air pistol match or another match that involves a large number of targets per athlete. Scanning targets in this way means you do not need to use barcode labels. That metadata is assigned as you're scanning the targets in. Finally, we have the Assign To function. Assign To allows you to manually assign targets to athletes, as well as to denote the position in series. Several situations come up that require this. If you are not using barcode labels, if labels are being smeared or otherwise unclear, or if the labels are mismatched. So, for example, if in our demo match, if I for some reason have targets that say 103, they're not going to be assigned to me properly. They'll instead show up here on the match itself. Right-clicking the target selects the Assign To option, which allows targets to be assigned manually. You can see that here. So in our test match, I can select one of our targets up here, right-click it, select Assign To. This will bring up the upper right corner of the target. It will allow me to select which relay I'm using, or simply all shooters. And I can select the athlete that the target is being assigned to at that point. Now you'll note, because there is data on the barcode label still, even though it does not match my competitor number, the K1 is still being denoted here for kneeling. If I need to change that, if say for example an athlete bubbles in something that's incorrect, I can simply do that here. Once that's completed, I would select Next. As you see, that target's been assigned. Once I've completed all of that, I would select Finish. In this part of the presentation, we're going to cover the camera use function of AutoScore and how targets can be assigned by using the Orion mobile app. So, as we've discussed in a prior presentation, the Orion mobile app allows range officers to take a photo of the target with the application that uploads images to the cloud, which Orion then downloads and scores. Targets are assigned in 2 ways through the Orion mobile app. Large format barcode labels provide all the data for the athlete, in this case the name, competitor number, match information, and the event. A QR code is shown here. That is what the camera will read in order to assign the target properly within Orion. Alternatively, just as we discussed with using the Scan Targets For command in the Orion application, the app itself has this. As a match range officer, I can select View Squatting within the mobile app, and then from here I can take photos and assign them on a per photo basis. In Orion, these targets come in this way, and as you can see, they have the same information and are assigned similarly as they're brought in. This section of the Match Scoring tab contains that metadata and also any additional information, such as the expected 20 but instead have 0 here. As for this example, we were simply scanning a blank target. For our final section of the presentation, we're going to cover loading images from the match directory and what AutoScore results mean. The Load from Directory feature is not commonly used in Orion. However, it will bring in all target images from the match directory. Every Orion match, for example this demo match, titled Webinar Demo Match, has a corresponding folder in your My Matches directory. By default, that is saved in the Documents folder in a folder called My Matches, and then each match will have its own folder which contains the match data, log files, as well as an image of each target that was scanned in for the match. The Load from Directory feature, found here by selecting Match, Score, Load from Directory and Score, will bring in all targets from this directory. This command may take several minutes on older machines, depending on the number of images present. If barcode labels have been used on the targets will still be assigned as normal using this method. Load from directory may be used when restoring a match from a local backup, for example a flash drive, when scanning targets without a supported scanner, when splitting image files across multiple machines for a large match. This is not a commonly used feature in Orion. Much more often you'll simply be using the auto scan and score targets feature with auto score, which is again found here. This section also allows you to rescore targets. A feature available but generally used only in development or in testing purposes is the rescore all targets command. That can be found here. Match, score, rescore all targets. However, rescoring an individual target is more common. So for example, if I have manually modified the shots on the target or applied penalties and simply want to get rid of those, I can use the rescore target command to do this. In this case, I have a target here where I have removed one of the shots, and in order to get everything back to fresh, I'm going to right click and select rescore target. Target will highlight in green as it's being scored, and then after it finishes, we'll see everything cleared and the issue with the missing shot has been resolved. Finally, we're going to talk briefly about what autoscore results mean and interpreting them. Specifically, I want to address highlighting on the targets, as this is a common support question we have. There are three kinds of highlights that you may see on a target. They're all indicated here: yellow, red, and gray. A yellow highlight indicates that the target has too few or too many shots. The red and gray highlights are limited only to athletes. Here, you can see how they're assigned. Gray is assigned when targets are missing. So for example, in this 3-position match, I do not have a kneeling target assigned, so I've been highlighted in gray. Greg, on the other hand, has 2 prone targets assigned for the same series, so he is highlighted in red. You can see that both of those here. So in order to correct this, I'm first going to remove the red highlighting. I'm going to remove this target. And I'm going to determine that what's actually happened is everything's just been misassigned here. So I'm going to remove this target from Greg as well. You'll notice he now shows up in gray. I'm going to reassign this target and place that with Greg. And you'll see now all the highlights have cleared. However, an absence of highlighting does not mean a target should not be viewed. For example, on this target, I've deliberately removed a shot and then placed a new one here. A shot has been missed, another one has been found that shouldn't be present on the target, but as you can see, Orion's found the correct number of shots, so it is not highlighting this as an issue. As we've mentioned before in other presentations, we do have a shared responsibility with Orion. Match officials are responsible for knowing how to configure Orion, keeping Orion updated, knowing your rulebook, and using Orion correctly. It means being able to go through and evaluate individual targets to make sure matters such as this are addressed and the athlete is getting the proper score. that's all we have for this presentation. I hope this has been informative on showing you the ways in which AutoScore is used to assign targets and score them.